What happens when the enemy's voice comes not from the battlefield, but from your own radio? How do you fight an adversary who knows your every move before you make it? Can you trust anyone when the threat comes from within your own walls? Commander Tom Mitchell was settling into his evening routine at Forward Operating Base Sentinel, a remote outpost in Nevada's high desert. The day's training exercises had concluded successfully, and his men were relaxing in the recreation room when the radio crackled to life with a transmission that would shatter everything they thought they knew about security. "Good evening, Commander Mitchell," the voice began with chilling calm. "I hope you're enjoying your coffee. It's the dark roast blend from the commissary, isn't it? The one Sarah used to make for you before she took Michael and moved back to her mother's house in Portland." Tom's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. The separation from Sarah wasn't public knowledge. It was a private matter known only to his superiors and closest confidants. Yet this voice, coming through their secure communication channel, spoke of it with intimate familiarity. "Who is this?" Tom demanded, moving quickly to the radio console. "How did you access this frequency?" The laughter that emerged was soft and terrifying. "Oh, Commander, you know what I represent. I am the voice of justice, the instrument of retribution for all the innocent blood your government has spilled." Around the recreation room, conversation stopped entirely. Sergeant Rodriguez, Corporal Williams, and Private Chen gathered around the console, their faces reflecting the same alarm that gripped Tom's chest. "Listen carefully," the voice continued, "because what I'm about to tell you will determine whether you see another sunrise. Sergeant Rodriguez, I see you there trying to trace this signal. Don't bother. That would be unwise." Tom felt his mouth go dry. Someone was watching them, monitoring their movements in real time, with access to information that should have been impossible for any outside entity to obtain. "What do you want?" Tom asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. "I want you to understand how completely you have been compromised, how thoroughly your security has been penetrated, how easily your lives can be ended whenever I choose." Each sentence built a crescendo of psychological pressure that Tom could feel affecting his men. "Let me demonstrate my knowledge," the voice continued remorselessly. "Sergeant Rodriguez, your wife Maria is at her book club on Maple Street. Your daughter Isabella is at soccer practice at Roosevelt Elementary. Private Chen, your parents run Chang's Golden Dragon restaurant. Your father works late every Tuesday night, usually alone after 9 o'clock. It's 8:47 p.m. right now." Rodriguez went pale, instinctively reaching for his phone. Chen made a strangled sound as the reality of the threat became personal and immediate. Tom realized that whoever was speaking had gathered intelligence on every member of his unit with surgical precision. "This is impossible," Williams muttered. "Nobody has this kind of access to personal information about military families." "Oh, but someone does," the voice replied. "Someone who has been watching you, learning about you, documenting your weaknesses for a very long time. Someone who knows that Commander Mitchell's estranged wife Sarah has been struggling financially, working double shifts at Portland General Hospital." The mention of Sarah's difficulties hit Tom like a physical blow. The fact that strangers were discussing his personal failures felt like a violation beyond mere security concerns. "And little Michael," the voice continued with mock sympathy, "such a bright boy but having trouble adjusting to the new school. The counselor thinks he's acting out because he misses his father." Tom's hands clenched into fists. The bastard was using his son's emotional struggles as psychological warfare, turning private family pain into a weapon. "Enough," Tom said, his voice carrying command authority. "You've made your point. What are your demands?" "Demands? Commander, you misunderstand. This isn't a negotiation, it's a notification. You and your men are going to die tonight. Your families are going to die. And when the sun rises, your flag will fly upside down from the same pole where your heads will be displayed. The graphic threat sent a chill through the room. Rodriguez moved to the weapons locker, quietly distributing ammunition. Tom approved of the initiative, though he wondered how effective small arms would be against an enemy with supernatural knowledge of their every move. "You're wondering how I know so much," the voice observed. "The answer is simpler than you think and far more terrifying. The enemy isn't outside your walls, Commander Mitchell. The enemy is sitting right there with you." The words hit like a bomb, instantly transforming trusted colleagues into potential threats. Tom looked around at his men, seeing suspicion and fear reflected in every face. "One of you has been providing intelligence about this unit for 8 months, the voice continued. "Personnel records, family information, operational schedules, everything needed to plan the perfect attack." The accusation hung in the air like poison, contaminating every relationship. Tom watched as his men began eyeing each other with suspicion, years of camaraderie crumbling under paranoia's weight. The dedicated sergeant with gambling debts his wife doesn't know about? The corporal with PTSD and growing military resentment? Or the young private so eager to please, so vulnerable to manipulation? Each suggestion felt plausible. Tom realized this was psychological warfare, not just to threaten them physically, but to destroy their ability to function as a unit. "Stop," Tom commanded. "This is exactly what he wants, for us to turn on each other. We stay together, trust each other, and find a way out." But even as he spoke, Tom found himself analyzing each man's behavior, looking for signs of deception. "Very good, Commander," the voice approved. "But how do you maintain trust when one of your most trusted subordinates has been planning your death for months?" "Sergeant First Class Michael Rodriguez has been a valued asset for 8 months, the voice announced. "His cooperation has provided invaluable intelligence about American operations." Rodriguez stared at the console in shock. "That's a lie," he said, his voice rising with outrage. "Sir, you know me. I would never betray my unit or country." "Of course he would deny it," the voice said, amused. "But the evidence is clear. The gambling debts, the financial pressure, the recruitment during his last home leave." Tom remembered Rodriguez seeming different after his recent leave, more stressed and distracted. Had he been compromised? "Show me evidence," Tom demanded. "Sergeant Rodriguez, tell your commander about the meeting last Tuesday at Riverside Diner. The one where you provided floor plans and discussed attack timing." Rodriguez's face went white. "I was never at any diner. I was home with Maria and Isabella. Were you? Or were you in booth 7, drinking coffee you couldn't afford, discussing how to betray the men who trust you?" Tom found himself torn between instinct to trust Rodriguez and mounting evidence of betrayal. "Sir," Williams interjected, "maybe we should secure the sergeant until we figure this out." "No," Tom said firmly. "We don't turn on each other based on enemy accusations. Rodriguez, tell me the truth. Any contact with anyone connected to terrorist organizations?" Rodriguez met Tom's gaze directly. "Sir, on my honor and love for my family, I have never betrayed this unit. I don't know how they know what they know, but it wasn't from me." "Very touching," the voice commented. "But tell your commander about the encrypted communications equipment hidden in your quarters." The specific accusation sent chills through the room. If Rodriguez had encrypted equipment, it would represent active collaboration with terrorists. "Search my quarters right now," Rodriguez offered desperately. "You won't find anything because there's nothing to find." Tom made a painful decision. Williams, Chin, escort Rodriguez to his quarters and search thoroughly. 20 minutes later, they returned with Rodriguez and damning evidence. encrypted communications equipment and coded messages found hidden in his wall locker. "I've never seen that equipment before," Rodriguez insisted, appearing as shocked as anyone. "Someone planted it there." Tom examined the evidence, noting the professional quality. But studying the coded messages more carefully, he noticed something crucial. "The handwriting, Rodriguez, is this yours?" Tom showed him the papers. Rodriguez compared them to his driver's license signature. "No, sir. That's definitely not my handwriting. Look at the letter formations, completely different from mine." Tom studied both samples. Even without expert analysis, the differences were obvious. Unless Rodriguez was skilled enough to completely disguise his handwriting, these documents weren't his. "Interesting," the voice commented. "So the sergeant claims evidence was planted. How convenient." "The information is accurate," Tom admitted, "but that doesn't prove Rodriguez wrote these. Someone else with classified access could have created them and planted them in his quarters." "Commander," Chin spoke up nervously, "maybe whoever is really working with terrorists set up Sergeant Rodriguez to cover their tracks." "Excellent point, Private," the voice agreed. "Young Chin is quite perceptive. Perhaps too perceptive for his own good." Tom looked around at his men, realizing that if Rodriguez was innocent, then either Williams or Chen was the real traitor. The paranoia reached new peaks as he tried to determine which soldier wanted him dead. "But you're all missing the most obvious possibility," the voice interrupted. Tom felt his stomach clench, realizing what was coming. Commander Tom Mitchell, decorated officer, trusted leader, and for 8 months, a valued intelligence asset for freedom fighters. The accusation hit Tom like a physical blow. His men stared at him with shock and disbelief as everything they knew was called into question. "That's insane," Tom whispered. "I would never betray my country or my men. Wouldn't you? A man whose marriage failed due to military demands, whose son barely knows him. A man increasingly disillusioned with American foreign policy?" The psychological profile was uncomfortably accurate, touching doubts Tom had never voiced. But personal problems didn't make someone a traitor. "Check your personal computer, Commander," the voice said confidently. "I think you'll find the communication logs quite illuminating." Tom realized he was trapped in the same web that had ensnared Rodriguez. Evidence could be planted to support any accusation. Trust, once broken, was almost impossible to rebuild. But then Tom noticed something crucial. The voice had been too confident, too detailed in its knowledge of planted evidence. More importantly, it had revealed information only someone with direct facility access could know. "Wait," Tom said, turning to face his men. "How does our enemy know so much about our quarters layout? How does he know exactly where evidence was planted, what computers to check?" The questions hung in the air as Tom's tactical mind worked through implications. The detailed knowledge went beyond what any external operation could obtain. "The voice has been describing things only someone physically present could know," Tom continued, certainty growing. "Someone watching us, listening to us, documenting our moves from inside our walls." Rodriguez caught on immediately. "Sir, you're right. Whoever this is isn't calling from some remote location. They're here with us, watching our reactions in real time." Tom walked to the radio console and examined the equipment carefully. What he found confirmed his suspicions. Additional electronic components that weren't part of standard military communications, sophisticated recording and transmission equipment that could create the entire elaborate deception. "Gentlemen," Tom said, relief and rage mixing in his voice, "we've been played." The voice, threats, accusations, it's all been an elaborate psychological experiment by someone with access to our files and technical knowledge to manipulate our communications. Tom looked at each man, analyzing their reactions. Rodriguez appeared relieved but angry. William seemed confused. Chin was smiling. It was brief, quickly suppressed, but Tom caught it. The young private who had seemed so frightened had just revealed his satisfaction at a job well done. "Private Chin," Tom said quietly, "would you like to explain what's been going on here tonight?" Chin's expression shifted completely, the mask of innocence falling away to reveal something calculating and mature. When he spoke, his voice carried none of the earlier nervous uncertainty. "It was a test, sir," Chin said professionally. "A psychological evaluation designed to assess unit cohesion under extreme stress and identify potential security vulnerabilities." The admission confirmed Tom's suspicions but raised more questions about the operation's scope and authorization. "Authorized by whom?" Tom demanded. "With what authority do you subject military personnel to psychological torture?" Chin produced official identification Tom had never seen. Department of Defense Intelligence Agency credentials identifying him as an agent conducting covert assessments of unit reliability. "The operation was authorized at the highest levels," Chin explained. "Recent security breaches have raised concerns about insider threats and psychological manipulation vulnerability. Your unit was selected for testing because of your exemplary record and trust relationships." Tom felt relief mixed with outrage. They hadn't been under actual threat, but they'd been subjected to sophisticated psychological manipulation without knowledge or consent. "The personal information about our families," Rodriguez said, voice tight with anger. "How did you obtain private details?" "Standard intelligence gathering protocols," Chin replied matter-of-factly. "Background investigations, social media monitoring, financial records analysis, all legally authorized for security purposes." Tom realized they'd been under comprehensive surveillance. Every aspect of their personal lives had been documented by intelligence professionals. "And the planted evidence?" Tom asked. "Part of stress testing protocol. We needed to see how unit cohesion would hold up under internal betrayal accusations. Equipment was placed during yesterday's maintenance when personnel were at field exercises." William stepped forward, face flushed with anger. "You bastard. Do you know what you put us through? What you put our families through?" "Stand down, Williams," Tom ordered, sharing the rage. "Chin, you crossed lines that should never be crossed. Using our families as psychological weapons isn't training, it's torture." Chin remained professionally neutral. The methodology was approved by behavioral psychologists and intelligence specialists. The documented stress responses will provide valuable counterintelligence data. "Valuable data?" Rodriguez said incredulously. "You treated us like lab rats. You made me doubt my commander, him doubt me. You threatened our children." Tom understood the broader implications. If this testing was widespread, it represented a fundamental shift in how the government viewed military personnel, not as trusted professionals, but as potential security risks requiring constant monitoring. "How many other units have been subjected to this?" Tom asked. Chin checked his watch, apparently deciding debriefing was concluded. "That's classified above your clearance. Your unit's responses will be analyzed and recommendations made regarding future security protocols." Tom felt chilled realizing their reactions had been recorded for analysis by intelligence personnel who might draw conclusions about their reliability, loyalty, or psychological stability. "What happens now?" Tom asked. "Did we pass or fail your experiment?" "Evaluation is ongoing," Chin replied. "Final determinations will be made by analysts reviewing all recorded data. You should receive notification of operational changes within 2 weeks." "Get out," Tom said, voice low and dangerous. "Get your equipment, file your reports, and get out of my facility. If I discover you or anyone connected to this program has threatened my men or families again, There will be consequences your analysts can't predict. As Chin collected his equipment, Tom wondered how many other trusted subordinates throughout the military were actually intelligence agents conducting covert assessments. After Chin left, Tom and his men sat processing what had happened and what it meant for their future. The damaged trust wasn't just between them, but between all of them and the military system they dedicated their lives to serving. "Do you think other units know about this testing?" Rodriguez asked quietly. "Do you think everyone is being watched like this?" Tom considered carefully before answering. "I think we've discovered the line between security and surveillance has been blurred beyond recognition. We need to be very careful how we proceed." The evening that began with routine relaxation had ended with revelation that their trusted institutions were capable of psychological manipulation that would be considered torture if conducted by enemy forces. "What do we tell our families?" Williams asked. "How do we explain this without violating security or creating more fear?" "We tell them the truth," Tom decided. "That we were subjected to an unauthorized psychological experiment, their privacy was violated for intelligence purposes, and we're taking steps to ensure it doesn't happen again." As dawn approached over the Nevada desert, Commander Tom Mitchell and his men began rebuilding trust that had been deliberately shattered by people claiming to be on their side. It would be a long, difficult process, but they would face it together, united by surviving an attack that came not from foreign enemies, but from within their own ranks. The real war, they had learned, wasn't always fought on distant battlefields against obvious enemies. Sometimes it was fought in familiar places against people wearing the same uniform, using trust itself as a weapon. But they had survived this battle and would emerge stronger, more aware, and more determined to protect not just their country, but each other from those who would exploit their dedication for purposes they would never fully understand.
Like and subscribe.